So it's okay to have a go at a bald white guy. It's certainly not a go to have a go at anybody else. Well, not bald, but a white guy. Councillor Tony Randle joins us now from our letter from Wellington, the last one for the year. Tony, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on.
No problem.
Have you ever heard of drop nuts?
I haven't heard of drop nuts, and to be perfectly honest, I thought that's what they were supposed to do when you grew up.
Yes, well, there you go. Very good, Tony. Actually, I read yesterday, and talking about the Prime Minister and this government, I read yesterday that you'd passed your long-term plan and that Tory Whānau, the Mayor of Wellington, said as far as she was concerned, it was time for the government to butt out. Did I get that right?
We've passed the next phase. It was really, yesterday's meeting was to sort of say that the officers can go and write the consultation document on the long-term plan amendment. But it was also, we were doing some stuff on our annual plan, which is, the yearly budget we do for the 25-26 year. And that was a bit scary because our costs keep going up, it seems. We're now, instead of having a 12.8% rates increase, we're looking at having a 15.9% rates increase.
Oh.
Which is, there doesn't seem to be an upper limit to what's possible, it seems.
You're seriously, mate. You've got a cost of living crisis. Apparently, people are losing their jobs in Wellington. You've got significant upset about whether or not you could afford. House prices are dropping in Wellington, so people's real income is diminishing. You're not serious about going out there with a 16% rates increase next year.
Well, what it means is that we're going to have to make further cuts, which I find incredibly puzzling because I thought we just went through a big round of cuts. But the reality is, of course, the Mayor and her supporters actually just spent their time putting money back in the budget because they didn't want the cuts. So we're going through the motions of cutting stuff, but we're not cutting stuff. And the price just goes up for living in Wellington City.
I suppose Tory Whānau's comments. Well, yeah, no. Listen, you're in a bit of trouble, actually. I mean, of every centre in New Zealand at the moment, you're probably in the most trouble because house prices have gone back so much and people have lost real wealth living in Wellington City over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes, well, we're losing population. I mean,
are you?
The scariest stat I come back to was the last census, which showed that we have 2,000 fewer children in Wellington City than we did the previous time. I mean, if families are moving out of your city is dying. I mean, that's my definition of a dying place, is the families are moving away. It's just, and they can't afford it. Our rates are terrible. And, we're just spending too much on stuff that's not essential. I was very heartened by Simeon Brown's call to, put up some bumper bars, perhaps, for councils to get them back on the track of what we're supposed to do.
Well, obviously it didn't. The message was not well received in the Tory Whānau's office because she said, and I think I quoted her directly by saying it's time for the minister to butt out of what Wellington does. Wellington will do what Wellington does.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's ruling the roost, obviously. She's maxed out the credit card. And she obviously doesn't want anyone to come along and say, you're doing it wrong.
No.
But, that's what elections are for.
Well, that's right. And that's obviously going to happen next year as well. Listen, wow, 15.9. Yes. And so is that, so you've directed your officers to come back in February for keeping next year's increase below the 12.8 I see signalled in the original long-term plan. Does that mean you're now asking the officers to make the cuts rather than you guys making that decision?
Well, it seems we're not allowed to make cuts ourselves because they don't give us they don't give us information about what they're spending. I mean, we have no budget for this year. We've got no operating budget, so we don't know where the money's going. So all we can do is ask the officers who are spending the money to come back with ideas about where they can not spend money.
Or I
I don't
guess
know.
what usually happens in cases like that is they simply defer and delay, uh,
Oh,
if to get.
no. What they do is they come out and say, "Oh, we have to close the pools in the libraries."
Yes, that's right.
You know,
Yes, that's
they
right.
don't say, "Oh, we've got
Yeah,
to stop the bike repair workshops we're doing to promote cycling."
yeah,
They don't. They don't stop. You know, I don't know. They don't stop funding whatever the 34 people in the climate change team are doing.
yeah,
They just, they just cut the things that people. They offer to cut the things that people want to keep, and they hide the things where there's actually a major amount of wastage.
yeah.
Uh,
No, it's
but
typical. It's bureaucrat strategy number one. Rather than have to cut themselves or any of the useless people that are working for them, they always go and say, "Well, we'll close the libraries and, as you say, close the community swimming pools and things like that. Things that people use." They're a
yeah,
dishonest bunch of people. Listen, Tony. The other thing I noticed this week was that I remember how, in this year, we've been talking about how can you rejuvenate Wellington? How can we make a exciting, vibrant place that we all used to remember and it once was? And then this
mm,
group of well-intentioned people, from Bob Jones to Kerry Prendergast to Graham Wild, etc., they came out and said, "Listen," including I think the Stuff's owner as well, the mainstream media Stuff owner as well, were part of this group. Have you heard any more since they announced their formation?
no, no, I haven't. Um, I mean, there are some really good people who want to do good things. I
Yeah,
actually, one of the big ideas was to do an event in Courtney Place. But I caught up with a guy who's trying to arrange it, and after the council saying, "Oh, this is a great idea, we'll support you," he says, "Well, he met with the council, and all he got was a list of things that he needs to do to get permission to do it from the council." And so, his comment was very much, no, none of the officers stood up and said, "Actually, we'll take care of all our stuff. You get on and focus on raising the money to actually have your festival." So I don't think it's necessarily even going to happen. It's the council sort of on one hand says it's here to support the community, but when you look at what they do, you see a different story. And certainly the feedback we're getting is that people aren't very supportive of it. I mean, I heard that the Tories, two people have resigned from Tories business group
yes. I was going
because
to talk to you
they've
about
got
that.
better things to do
Yeah,
than have coffee and be ignored.
yeah,
They can be ignored at no time, spending no time being ignored rather than spending an hour a week or so being ignored to their face. So, Wellington is in trouble. And we haven't got that breathing room to go and let some of the great stuff happen again. It's just all about other stuff.
yes. Listen, the other thing that I found interesting was you've got a complaint after Wellington City Councillor's racist comment. It's sinister to end, said Terry O'Neill to one of your colleagues, Ray Chung, that your opposition to the submission is anything other than racist. That was, now I don't know who Terry O'Neill is. She looks a young woman. She looks like she's a Green. Ray Chung is one of the more conservative Asian base or background councillors you've got on the court. What happened? What happened there? Were you available? Did you
Oh,
see that particular
it was just
exchange?
look, it was just simply appalling, an appalling incident, a new low for the council, I have to say, because we've been getting on. I mean, we've hired a new chief executive. We work pretty well together. We've been having big debates about the long-term plan and spending and calling each other to account and criticising each other. But the council decided in its wisdom that to do a submission to the treaty principles bill
Oh
and
God.
a submission
Yeah.
that's strongly against it,
Yeah.
a submission that they wrote with our two iwi partners,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I and Ray Chung and myself, we chose to speak. We didn't have to speak, but we chose to speak, and we pointed out that two things. One is when we talk to our constituents, they don't raise the treaty principles bill with us, they raise why are our rates going up by 15.9%? Why are we spending all this money? And can we have some cuts? And what about the water? That's the discussion we have. And so I have no idea. I said I have no idea what my constituents think about the treaty principles bill, so I can't really vote for or against it. But the other thing is, even if I had gone to the trouble and I said, oh, actually my constituents are against it, other people come and said, oh, you should be for it. There were other arguments around the table saying, oh no, it's a good thing to do. And most of the elected members voted in favour of it. But Terry O'Neill decided that because Ray Chung and myself were saying this is the wrong thing to do, that we were racist. They literally said that she almost literally said that our hidden agenda was, well, I'll read out what she said. She said that councillors that vote against the submission should be ashamed. This is giving into racist rhetoric, and it's for the sake of a cheap vote. It is sinister to pretend that your opposition to this submission is anything other than racist. So she's called me a racist because I said this is not the right thing to do. I mean, this is appallingly bad behaviour. I heard nothing from her. I heard no apology. I raised a point of order saying this is wrong. The chair never got any support. The mayor, in her summing up, followed this diatribe from Councillor O'Neill, causing other people racists, and she didn't even mention it, glossed over it. So it seems that it's fine that you can call councillors racist if you're not in the main camp. I just think that behind the scenes, I've got to say, and this is where it gets to be quite difficult to be a councillor at Wellington City, and probably in other left-leaning places, is that there's a nasty streak in some councillors that comes out from time to time, and that's the right word for it. It's nasty, and it doesn't help the debate. I'm elected. I've got a mandate to be there. I've got people who voted for me, and they voted for me because of the views I stood up for. And so by calling me a racist, they're almost calling my constituents racists. I mean, there are a lot of people in Wellington who probably oppose the treaty principles bill. I'm not going to say whether I oppose or support it. It's not the point. The point is you should be playing the ball, not the man. You shouldn't be calling people racist. It's a terrible term to have labelled against you.